Good afternoon. Welcome to ABA's first ever virtual Washington Summit. I am so excited to welcome this audience of more than 3,600 bankers from all across the country, representing banks of all different sizes and charters. This is by far the biggest audience we've ever had attend this event, which only serves to underscore our industry's commitment to moving the nation forward. All of us at ABA deeply appreciate your engagement and willingness to take time out of your busy schedules to be here. I am particularly pleased to see the depth and range of the participation. We have banks of all sizes represented at this summit and bank leaders in a range of different roles that are participating. That's exactly what we were hoping for when we scheduled this event. We have a very full agenda to cover today and tomorrow. Taking the virtual stage will be Senator Sherrod Brown, Senator Pat Toomey, Senator Joe Manchin, and Representative Joyce Beatty, all of whom will play critical roles in shaping policy over the next few years. We'll hear from former Louisiana Congressman Cedric Richmond, Senior Advisor to the President and Director of the White House Office on Public Engagement, who will offer the Biden administration's views on the economic challenges we face and the role banks can play. And we'll get an important regulatory perspective from FDIC Chair Jelena McWilliams. We'll also check in with ABA's Paul Benda on COVID-19 and the vaccination effort. And we'll get the perspective from outside the Beltway with a panel of bank CEOs who will offer their views on the state of the industry and the road ahead. They come from different parts of the country, represent different asset sizes, but all share a deep commitment to our industry and ABA. And because we know your time is valuable, we're going to pack all of that content into two 2-hour sessions over 2 days. So without further ado, I'd like to get things started by setting the stage on where things stand right now in Washington and what we expect from the year ahead. I've been in Washington for more than 30 years, working in government and for the banking industry. And I can tell you that there have been few issues in that time that have brought an administration, members of Congress, regulators, and the private sector into complete alignment on their top priority. COVID-19 is one such issue. We are now 1 full year into this deadly pandemic that has taken so many lives and disrupted our way of life. It's been a difficult year, filled with many moments of sober reflection. But as vaccines continue to roll out, and as we move out of the dark winter, to quote President Biden, and into the spring, there is hope, there is unity, and there is resolve. That's because all of us, from the president to Democrats and Republicans in Congress, to all of you listening today, are in complete alignment on one critical point. Together, we must end the COVID-19 pandemic and restart our nation's economy. Controlling COVID as swiftly as possible is good for families, for businesses, for policymakers, and for the nation. It is the single most important thing we can do to boost economic growth and get things moving again after months of stagnation and lockdowns. That's going to be our overriding focus as we engage with folks on Capitol Hill and in the White House, as we outlined in our 2021 Blueprint for Growth, a banker-developed list of advocacy priorities, which you can read in full at aba.com/blueprint. Of course, we will continue to have conversations on specific banking rules and regulations and making sure those are appropriately calibrated to support a robust recovery. Because we know that when it comes to creating economic growth, one of the key ingredients is a fully functioning, thriving banking sector. Certainly, there will be many policy issues on which we agree, and there might be some where we differ. But we know that everything is going to flow from defeating COVID and restarting the economy. So we'll be going into every one of these policy conversations with that overarching goal in mind. That's certainly been the focus of our productive conversations with the Biden administration from the transition until now. One of the most important steps we can take to stop the pandemic is to ensure that a critical mass of our population receives a COVID vaccine. A few weeks ago, I sent a message to all bank CEOs asking them to encourage their employees to get vaccinated as soon as they are eligible. I want to echo that message this afternoon. ABA's pandemic expert, Paul Benda, will go into this in greater depth during his session later today. But the top line takeaway is this: the vaccines available in the United States are safe, they are effective, and they are our best chance at creating a level of herd immunity that will protect our vulnerable populations, as well as those who cannot be vaccinated due to allergies, medical conditions, or other reasons. Building herd immunity is our path towards fully reopening our country and getting back to business as usual. So I encourage everyone listening, if you are able, to get vaccinated, get your families vaccinated, and encourage others to do so as soon as possible so that we can accelerate the recovery. Now, as you might imagine, facilitating the economic revitalization of our nation is a big job, but it's one that our industry is well positioned to do. As we've seen over the past year, even through the most uncertain days of the crisis, banks were a strong and steady source of support for households and businesses. From modifying mortgage terms to keep families in their homes, to extending Paycheck Protection Program loans to struggling small businesses, to seamlessly delivering millions of economic impact payments, banks stepped up in a major way in response to COVID challenges. These efforts have not gone unnoticed. In fact, according to a new poll conducted by ABA and Morning Consult that we just released this morning, Americans are very happy with their bank. After a year of COVID, with 9 in 10 saying that they are very satisfied or satisfied. And an overwhelming majority, 96%, say their bank's customer service is excellent, very good, or good. A significant majority, 74% of Americans, say they are satisfied or very satisfied with how banks responded to the pandemic. And looking to the future, an even greater majority, 84%, believe that banks have an important role to play in the economic recovery. Throughout this past year, we've seen many shining examples of bankers going above and beyond for their customers, just as they've always done in hard times. That's especially evident when it came to delivering Paycheck Protection Program loans, as we saw in our opening video. Banks took it upon themselves to proactively reach out to their small business customers to see how they were doing, understand what their needs were, and help them through the at times cumbersome PPP loan application process. ABA has also played a part in helping to spread the word about PPP. Earlier this month, we launched a multi-state radio advertising campaign encouraging any small business still struggling to reach out to a local bank. We recognize the need to reach businesses in low and moderate income communities, which have been significantly affected by the pandemic and may not have realized they were eligible for PPP loans. We specifically targeted these communities in our campaign with the hope of connecting as many entrepreneurs as possible to this important financial lifeline. There have been some important developments on the PPP in just the last week. Bipartisan bills have been introduced in both the House and Senate that, if passed, would extend the program through May 31st, allowing even more small businesses to take advantage of these emergency funds. This legislation would also allow SBA an additional month to process applications before the program would officially wind down on June 30th. This would allow them to clear loans that have been held up in many cases due to errors and holds that require SBA to review. The House is expected to move on the bill this week. Votes could come as early as today. There's a little less certainty on timing for the Senate bill, but there has been bipartisan agreement that an extension would be appropriate. We support this legislation because we know that struggling small businesses can't afford to lose access to these funds on account of back-end processing delays at the SBA. Ensuring that all PPP loan applications submitted on time have the opportunity to be processed and funded is one essential part of ensuring an inclusive recovery. Speaking of financial inclusion, I want to briefly mention another area where banks are stepping up. You may recall that last year I encouraged all banks to consider offering a Bank On certified product. These are transaction accounts that meet a set of standards established by the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund, including low costs, no overdraft fees, robust transaction capabilities, and bill pay options. Bank On certified accounts are now offered in 28,000 branches nationwide, in 99 out of 100 of the largest metropolitan markets, and in all 50 states. If you haven't already, I hope you'll take a moment to visit aba.com/bankon to learn more about offering a Bank On certified product at your institution. We will also hear shortly from a bank CEO who can explain how this important program is helping her community and the bank. This is just one of many ways that banks are working to make financial products and services more accessible to all Americans. At ABA, we continue to do our part to help our member banks, especially community banks, offer more products digitally, which we know can help boost financial inclusion. That effort has involved significant engagement with the nation's core providers. Visit aba.com/core for details. We also continue to expand our efforts around other diversity, equity, and inclusion-related issues. In just a moment, ABA's own James Ballantyne will sit down with Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, chair of the House Financial Services Subcommittee on Diversity and Inclusion, also the chair of the CBC, to talk more about how banks and policymakers can work constructively to enhance diversity within our industry and to make sure that the recovery leaves no one behind. It's this kind of constructive engagement with policymakers that will be critical as we look ahead to the issues facing us over the next several years, from the risk posed by non-banks to data privacy to climate change. We are prepared to make our case on these and other issues on your behalf. We will work with Democrats and Republicans who appreciate and understand the important roles banks play in the economy. We will engage with regulators, some of whom we know very well and some of whom we are just getting to know. We will make our case on issues armed with facts, data, and the real-world experiences of our members. Please be ready to share your knowledge and expertise through our many councils, committees, and advisory panels. I hope you'll also consider participating in our Banking Economic Impact Survey, which all CEOs should have received a link to last week. The annual survey helps us gather data we can use to advocate effectively with policymakers and highlight the critical role of the banking sector. As I wrap up today, I want to extend a personal word of thanks to all of the policymakers who have graciously agreed to take the time today and tomorrow to share their views with us. We know that we won't always agree on every issue, but when it comes to stopping the coronavirus and kickstarting a dynamic, inclusive recovery, we are all on the same page. The nation's banks stand ready to assist in the important task ahead. As the voice of the nation's banks, ABA will continue to lead with our long-standing bipartisan approach to advocacy. We'll work with full force towards our shared goals, and we'll continue to engage in productive dialogues with lawmakers from both sides of the aisle. And as we write this next chapter of our American story, we'll continue to highlight the important role our nation's banks play. Our opening video was a powerful reminder of everything our industry has had to navigate over the past year and the incredible efforts all of you have made on behalf of your employees, customers, and communities. All of those stories and testimonials will be shared by ABA member banks as part of our America's Banks campaign, where we showcase the positive things banks of all sizes are doing in their communities. I invite all of you to visit aba.com/americasbanks to read and be inspired by the many stories we've collected. It is a powerful reminder of how banks, as intermediators of capital, power the economic engine of our nation. Before we go to our first discussion of the day, I want to share the first of several individual bank videos we'll be playing over the next 2 days. All of the videos were submitted to us as part of the America's Banks campaign, and they help tell the broader story about our industry's efforts to drive the economy forward. This first video comes from Citizens Bank in Rhode Island and talks about a small business grant program that's making a big difference. As we roll the video, I'd just like to say thank you for your efforts, thank you for being here, and enjoy the summit.